flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, first order of business is the approval of minutes. Read and reviewed. Looking for a motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
It was Alan Doug, and that's for 7:22 and 8:12 minutes.
Okay, small projects.
So Harkaway Road was advertised, but the filing didn't come in on time, so that will be for our next agenda. So I don't think we need to take any action, but I didn't want to take it off the agenda in case anybody showed up for that, but I don't think.
So, motion to continue.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Next one is NACC 156, 164 Old Farm Road.
66 equestrian first, or
Pardon me?
do I have it on here different? On the
56?
Depends on which one you go by, either the agenda or...
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going by the agenda. That-
On the agenda, if they're saying it's not first.
Okay. Which one do you have?
Old Farm Road is the next one
All right,
on the
we'll
agenda.
Not my agenda.
Don's got two sets of agenda.
Equestrian Drive is the first one. Equestrian Drive is the first one, and Old Farm Road is the second.
Yeah.
Not there. Yep.
Oh, okay, well, she said Harkaway Road, that's why I misspoke. All right, so we want 66 Equestrian Drive, I'm
This
sorry.
one, all right, yeah,
Okay.
66 equestrian, yeah.
So this is a small project. The deck itself is larger than 300 square feet, but the portion in the 100-foot buffer zone is very small. It's just kind of the hatched area in between where it says 8 feet. Off the septic tank, there's a little addition of the deck there. That's the only portion in the 100-foot buffer zone. So with that said, it qualifies as a small project A. Heidi recommends opposed construction and wetland markers at the 25-foot no disturb. This was built long enough ago that there are no markers out there.
Any questions, Al?
I have no questions.
Doug?
No questions.
Sean?
No questions.
Motion.
Motion to approve this as a subsection A under our small project application checklist.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
And now I move that we allow it and adopt the suggestions of the administrator and the field inspector.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Okay. And now the next one is 156, 164 Old Farm Road.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Have a good night. So on this one is just along a similar vein. This house is not the proposed project. It just shows the wetland, which is on an adjacent lot. And you can see it's 75 feet over approximately from the adjacent lot to the lot where the work is proposed, which we have on an aerial plan here. And the proposal here is to grade the portion of the lot you see with the circle, get it level for a swing set. I'll work within the 100-foot buffer zone, but more than 75 feet from the wetland. I don't know if you want to explain where the dirt's coming from and how.
The idea is to actually take a little bit of the existing ground from the side that you see that's furthest away from the wetlands, and then we might have to bring in a max of a truckload. He was guessing, which I guess is 22 yards-ish. So ultimately, once the project's underway, we'll know exactly how much topsoil we might need, but the goal is to kind of just regrade what's there.
No questions.
You said you're leveling it off a swing set, right?
Yeah, it's a little too steep. Over the course of the 20-foot width of the swing set, or 25-foot width, it's like a foot to 2 feet drop, depending on where we put the swing set. We need to get that down to about a 6 to 10 inch drop. Or it's, it's 6 inches per 10 feet, so a foot. So we have to come down a foot.
Right, well, the reason why I asked that, you're gonna make like a separate swing area, you're not gonna put the swing area on loom, right?
On loom?
Yeah, you said a truckload of dirt, and then you said loom, so.
No, the fill's going to be mostly in the back, just to try and, there could be a section of it. They're going to use a sod cutter and put sod under it, and the project, hopefully, if it starts soon, it will go, it'll be in place for quite a while before the swing set gets installed. But depending on where the swing set goes, obviously, if the ground is soft, it's going to go closer to the house until next year.
Okay, I asked was because of, the grass being able to grow with a swing set, how long that's gonna last. So I don't know if you were making a boxing area with like sand or wood chips or
Not
something like
yet.
that.
Like I said, if it is real soft, or if the grass doesn't take by the time the swing set comes, our intentions are to put the swing set as close to the house, which is really not much is going to be touched. And then next year, the goal is to move it back into the corner of the yard.
Is that done? Sean?
Do you know how much of an overall area, whether it's in square feet?
It's
This
about
is going to
50
be-
by 50, and that's the, I guess, working area. Ultimately, it's half of that will actually be affected. So, what's that, 12,000 square feet? I mean, I'm
Is it
talking,
that much? Is it
that's feathering
12,000
out.
square feet?
No,
No.
not 50 by 50.
50 by, half of the 50 by, the entire area that's marked from 75 feet to my property line is 50 by 45. The part that we're actually going to be removing or regrading is more like 25 by 25.
Right.
Again, we're filling, a sort of a valley. There's part of the part that the 75-foot mark, it's nice and level, and it's funny, the yard kind of goes like that. So that's why this shows like that.
One of the reasons why I ask is, under the subsections of the small project application checklist, one of them is for open slotted decks of a certain size that we allow under our, because I'm trying to figure out where this fits in this checklist that I have here, because it's checked off other similar projects, so I wanted to look to see what would be considered similar. So I guess not I guess, it says right here, we allow decks with slotted decks where soil disruption during construction is limited to less than 50 square feet, and where no permanent soil alterations are planned under the footprint of the deck. So is this the same size as?
I think it's more of a landscaping project. We've allowed, remember, I forget where it was, but we did the whole length of that tiered retaining wall. Again, it was more, across the driveway and more than 75 feet, but we didn't certainly do it by square footage. We just sort of considered it more of a landscaping project than
I know
a,
where Sean's coming from, but that is, it set up was supposed to probably alter land to put up a structure.
Right.
I don't-
There's another one here, patios of less than 300 square feet, not requiring excavation or grading. So if somebody wants to grade for a patio and excavate or grade it,
That seems to be contradictory.
I think all of those are
Put a
adding
patio, how do you
impervious
not
area.
grade or something? It's about
This is,
process.
where is this? This is out of the 50.
More than 75
It's
feet.
more than 75 feet away, and he's not creating any impervious area, right?
No, the
No.
majority of the work is past 100 feet. We might go into that 100-foot mark by maybe 10 feet to play it safe. We said 75, and when I say go into that, it's really feathering out, just so it matches up with the existing grade.
There's no conversion, you're not converting from
No,
pervious.
no, it's currently grass, and we're gonna make it grass
Minimal
again.
impact has
Okay,
to be
grass to grass,
determined.
okay.
what's that?
If it's minimal impact, which has to be determined, then it doesn't, it's a similar-
Right, that's always what,
That's-
that's L. So, yeah, so that's what I was doing, I was comparing L to what else we have there to see if it's
I don't think
similar to
it
these or
requires you to
different.
compare to these, I think it just requires you to determine it's minimal impact. Of a similar nature to this type of a project. That's how I would view it.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay. I just have one more. From the end of the drive, because that's going to be, naturally going to be a construction access, you're going to come from the other side?
Yeah, we've had so many trucks go that way because of fallen trees and stuff, that from the street to the corner of my yard has already got holes in it. So maybe next year I'll be filling those holes. You might as well drive on the grass.
Okay.
And he's not bringing in heavy machinery. It's like something the size of a Bobcat, so.
Okay. Well, I'm just thinking about the truck backing down here. Okay, I'm all set. Any more questions? Motion?
I move that we allow NACC 156 as a subsection L, other small, similar projects of minimal impact.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Jen, do you have any recommendations or issues?
I don't know, Heidi did this one, so she recommends erosion control and pre- and post-construction inspections. So a silt sock or something she discussed with you, down gradient of the work.
I know what that is. I can bring that up.
Yep,
That's fine.
so that's what she's recommending.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that's unanimous. All set, thank you.
Thank you.
RDA's, 602 Boxford Street, request to continue till
We
9/23.
have to actually formally open that hearing. I don't think anyone's here. Is anyone here for Boxford Street? So consider it opened, and we can continue.
Deemed read.
Deemed read?
We still have to find out if that's actually necessary.
I did. It's not written anywhere that it needs.
It's not required.
Okay.
Okay, so if it's not required,
Certification from Jen that it's been properly advertised.
so just mailings and ads are necessary, but the actual public reading is not.
The proper reading is not.
Got it.
All we have to know is properly advertised. And
Gotcha.
if
All
they
right.
say it is, then we go.
Good information to know.
Good. All right, so that's all set, right? So we need a
So
motion.
opened and continued till,
9/23.
9:23. So move.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. Okay, next one is 64 North Cross Road.
so this was the subject of your site visit this week. Here's the plan. Went out to look at the hazardous trees.
This is an IDA, right?
Yep. So there is a waiver request to remove trees in the 25-foot no disturb zone. And then there is, as discussed in the field, there would be a required mitigation plan with appropriate plantings to be chosen from sweet pepperbush, winterberry, highbush blueberry, speckled alder, red osier, silky dogwood, or northern arrowwood. And the area to be revegetated is an area of wetland that's been lawn for as far back as we have aerial photography.
So, I know it's unusual for an IDA, but because we conducted a site visit and because we actually performed what I consider to be a validation of the alternatives or lack thereof and conducted fact-finding, it's my opinion that a narrative of some sort should be attached to the RDA reflecting the actions taken by the commission with respect to the site visit, the discussion at the site visit, the conditions that we witnessed. And the lack of alternatives due to the proximity of the trees to the house. I would like the narrative to state that it is the finding of the commission that we determine a hazard exists and the safety of the occupants is necessary for this decision. It's a unique situation. I think we recognize, all of us that were there, that that house would never have been constructed today.
Today's regulations,
Because it was built when it was built, it's in the proximity that it's in. That house would never exist under our current conditions. But we're faced with it now that we have to, the homeowners put it in our lap, so we have to take action. So I'd like that narrative to be attached there too, and I'd also request that the trees not be felled whole and dropped, but rather that the cutter have to climb the trees and take them down in sections. 3 of those trees are a couple hundred feet high, and if they're dropped into the wetland intact,
they'll take out everything else.
it's going to take out everything, and we can't allow that either, and there is a way to cut them correctly without doing that. So I think that the one condition that we have to insist upon is that whoever does the cutting is someone who is got the equipment and the experience to climb the tree and take them down in sections.
Do you know that that's their intention? Okay, well, we
Well,
can have that discussion with
There's,
them.
you understand what I'm doing. I'm not trying to be punitive. It's just that you've got a couple of 200-foot trees there that, if they're just, if someone with a chainsaw just drops them and they fall inbound, we've just defeated the purpose of everything we do here.
A lot of what we've seen too has been done by crane when it's that close to the wetland.
You have Iron Tree doing it, I believe, right? Was it Iron Tree your tree guy? He has the capability of doing it.
But I mean, I'm saying, I'm glad he does, and it's a precondition to this. It's a requirement. It's not an option. If there's a problem, that you're going to have to come back to us. Yeah, but I'm just saying, if there's any dispute, just come back to us, all right? Please.
Any questions on that?
No question.
Sean?
Well, I wasn't at the site visit, but it sounds like you guys went out there and you saw these trees are a danger to a lot of things around it, and that they need to come down. Is that it in a nutshell?
It was our opinion. It's the request of the homeowner due to their concern for the structure of their home and the safety of their family. And we went out and had a pretty protracted site visit, and we agree. There doesn't seem to be an alternative. Like I said, the proximity based upon the year the house was built and the location of the house to the resource area and the trees, you know.
There was 2 trees that I'm a little hesitant on, but the rest of the commission felt that it should be taken down. And you have that back on there, Jen? One was tree number 7, which is beyond the house, and tree number 3, which was pretty far away and looked pretty healthy.
Yeah.
But they felt that they were going in to cut it. And that, I mean, 1 definitely, 2 definitely. The birch trees should go because they didn't look like. But number 3 was pretty straight up and strong, but the rest of the commission felt that they should go. So I'll concur with the rest of the commissioners, because there was 4. What was it? 4. It was Jack, you, Deb, and Doug, right?
We had 4.
5. We had 5.
No, we had 5 of us there. Yeah.
Yeah, so 4 concurred that they should all come down. So I will defer to my fellow commissioners.
That's what makes you such a great chairman.
Not an easy. I got to say, not an easy decision to make. Pretty sensitive area, but you know, you have to go with the smart move. That's what we're here for, and it's not. So that's the reason why I believe that we should absolutely insist that the trees come down in sections, so as to preserve the rest of the canopy and not cause any other collateral bomb damage.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay, motion? Also, the stumps are to be left?
The stump, I'm sorry, no, the stumps need to be left in place, no grinding, no digging.
And there's the waiver request to vote on for
So we have to grant the waiver to allow the cutting first, right?
In the 25-foot no disturb.
Okay, so in light, I move that we grant the waiver to permit the cutting to take place.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. And I just have one more were we gonna, I'm gonna look at the recommendation again. Okay, I see the plantings. Now, you're gonna condition the plantings?
I'll condition that in the determination,
Okay. So we need a
along
motion.
with the conditions, and I'll write
A narrative.
a finding of fact to go with the
I think the
determination.
finding of fact is really important on this.
It should reflect safety.
It should reflect the fact that we went out, viewed it, and the safety, and the fact that there just simply is no alternative, and that's the key here.
Okay, so now we need a motion.
A motion to,
Issue a negative determination, numbers 2 and 5, with the finding of fact, the proposed mitigation, and that
planting plan?
that's the mitigation, yeah,
Okay.
and the trees be taken out in sections and not stumped.
Got to be taken out in sections, and also the conversion, there's going to be a conversion back, that area of lawn.
Yeah, that's the.
There's going to be a sinking up of the line, and there's an area that's going to be allowed to return.
Yeah.
Also, there should be, part of these trees are probably going to be ground on site. You want everything taken off and nothing dumped in the wetlands.
Right, no trees in one.
No lemon.
dumping.
Anything to be removed from the site.
Well, anything that, any portion of the tree needs to be removed, no limbs.
Yep.
Well, you're gonna do a pre-construction anyways.
Yeah,
Pre and post.
yeah, I would hope that you're out there to
So your
have a heart-to-heart with
tree
them.
guy will have to be there when they do the pre-construction.
Your contractor, whoever your
Contractor.
contractor is, will have
Meet
to,
with us beforehand, just to make sure he understands all the requirements.
a pre-cut meeting to make sure that there's no mistakes.
Jen?
Or Heidi, either one of us will be out there, but.
It'll just be, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion
So that was Al's motion. I believe.
Motion, what?
and a,
Yes.
Second?
all those in
I'll
favor?
plagiarize Jennifer's recommendations.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? And that's unanimous. Well said, thank you.
So you're all set. They will approve, but we'll issue you something with all that written down.
Notice of intents, 242-1659, 415 Winter Street, request to continue to September 23rd.
So,
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Next one is 242-1657, 777 Great Pond Road.
There's Bear Hill.
Isn't this the one that we, did Greg continue, or is he coming?
Greg continued.
Okay.
I could have swore I dropped it in here.
So
Oh,
we-
no, I'm sorry, he didn't continue. He would like to close. The issue is the planning board at the last hearing requested, they had requested that, or written a zoning analysis that said they didn't need to file a watershed special permit for this project. The board got that letter and still asked that they come in to talk about their project with the board.
I'm hesitant to close this under those conditions. If the planning board has something they want to discuss about this project, I think we should probably keep it open on our end.
I agree, when I asked the question about the yardage,
Yeah.
and when he said 600 yards,
Right.
plus filling the pools, now it's more like 800 yards.
Yeah.
I think there's going to,
I just think,
see the grade setting, because they're taking a knob off they're filling a pool and taking a knob off the front of the house to make a bigger yard. And they cleared some trees, and which
They wanna fill in.
they were fine with, but, I mean, it's a little bit more grading, intense grading than,
What you anticipated?
yeah, I think, I don't think they know. So, maybe I might even take a ride out there and see what 600 yards looks like.
They're using some of it to fill in an old pool. The property is kind of derelict, so they're rehabbing, and they didn't realize the trees are to the outer 200-foot riverfront area, but still well within the watershed zone of 325 feet, so. All right, I told Greg that might be the case, so.
I'm just thinking,
Is he
If the-
open to continuing?
He said if that's what he's not going to
If he
argue with the
objects, then we
board.
get no option but.
He's not here, and I don't
All right,
think anyone's here.
So we'll just table it for now.
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Table.
All right.
Okay, I
Well,
don't,
let's not forget about it.
right,
We'll forget it.
okay.
Table it in on the bottom of it.
All right. All right, the next one is 242-1656-95 Old Cartway.
So you have a letter in front of you, and here is the new plan. The deck and jacuzzi have been removed from the no-build zone. The stairs and a landing and additional stairs are still there.
Do we have new plans, or is just what we see on there?
He dropped off 2 plans, but I copied this in there, but that was all we got. I don't know, did you make a copy of, Donna?
Plans here if you like.
That's okay. Let's take a look at it.
No, I'll look at the one on the monitor, and if I can use the one that you have we have a monitor in front of us, I'll just stare at that one.
You know, there is an indication on the plan that the 50-foot line may be questionable.
That it may be questionable?
Well, there's a,
I see 50-foot no-build zone in the left, and under it says proposed stairs.
you see also, this is the new plan. There's a measured along, they say measured along the ground, 50.1 feet, and that's not to the 50-foot line.
Oh, yeah.
It's shy of the 50-foot line.
Say again?
From wetland flag A3 to the edge of the landing, you have a distance of 50.1 feet, but it doesn't actually hit the 50-foot no-build zone's another couple feet away.
This was re-engineered to give the commission everything they asked for. I've been assured by the engineer that there's 50 feet plus of land and earth between the wetlands marker and the nearest footing.
But the 50-foot line is beyond the 50-foot measurement. It should basically be on the 50-foot measurement. So I'm not sure whether the 50-foot line as shown on the plan is correct or the measurement is correct. Who took the measurement?
The engineer. These are stamped plans.
Right, so what
Is-
they're saying is that if you look at the plan, one or the other is inaccurate. Either this 50-foot no-build zone, this, which is represented by this line, or this dot, which there is said to be 50.1 foot, one or the other is wrong.
This is measured horizontally, this is measured by
And there's the 50-foot line beyond.
tape measure along the
It should be
ground.
right up on it.
Okay, so he's saying the 50.1 feet is measured by tape measure, so that would not be considered accurate. The 50,
Tape measure,
Yeah, it says
somebody
on the
went
ground.
out and taped it, and that's not accurate?
well, taped over the ground would be less accurate than surveyed. If the 50-foot,
Well, if the engineer taped it physically on the ground, pull the tape. The only problem is if its slope is
That's
that,
what it's
then the
showing.
measurement is going to be,
Longer
then
than it really is.
then it would be
One-
longer than it,
Here's the,
then
if I
that
may.
makes it even potentially more of a problem, yeah.
I didn't think this was going to be an issue, but in case it was,
Well,
I-
maybe in your favor, that's why.
by definition, the town's bylaws, definitions of the buffer zone, it talks about how it is to be measured, and in the 25-foot no disturbance zone, it doesn't mention anything about horizontal measurement, okay? So this is something that, if the issue was raised, which, well, not according to the town bylaw.
that's standard practice.
Well, what my attorney, Frank DeLuna, has told me, and there's case law, an abundance of
Attorneys
case
like
law.
to make arguments.
Apparently, there's an abundance of case law to support this, but the fact is that if you read the North Andover bylaw regarding defining, for instance, the 25-foot no disturbance zone, it mentions nothing about horizontal measurement.
So you're saying, you're suggesting that the bylaw doesn't say how to determine the distance from the flag to the subject? Is that what you're telling us?
According to Frank.
Yes.
A lawyer making up
So,
rules.
Well,
one of the things.
According to, listen, I'm not,
He's got no
I've tried to
technical
give you
background.
everything you've asked for
He's
here.
got no technical background in engineering or
all right.
science.
He's an attorney who specializes in land law.
Okay.
That
And
still doesn't make him qualified to take measurements.
Well, let's,
he didn't, the engineer did.
Yes,
And he
measurement, but
He
you take-
stamped it, and he said, this is
And
the
all the
distance.
measurements shown on the plan are horizontal measurements unless indicated otherwise.
So
That's the
is,
standard
So,
practice.
wait a minute, are you telling me that your issue is that, I mean, there might be, we're talking about inches here.
Well, let's back up for one.
Well,
Let's back up
may
for
I,
one.
please?
Wait a minute, wait, slow down, let's back up. The last meeting I deferred to the vice chair because he was involved with the first thing, okay? The vice chair went over and over and over again for an alternatives analysis, which you still have not supplied. So any chance of getting a waiver request without an alternatives analysis,
This plan, I asked to be redesigned so that wasn't necessary.
But it's still within the 50-foot no-build zone. So it would require an alternative analysis.
Let me ask you a question.
he's saying it isn't. So he's disputing his previous plan. That's what I'm hearing. He's saying he no longer needs a waiver because he's more than 50 feet away. That's what I'm hearing you say, right?
Yes.
That's what he's saying. So,
That isn't what the plan says.
All right, so can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Just, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a little frustrated here.
Yeah.
Last week, there was a project that, unless I completely misunderstood what happened, the members of this commission approved. It was heard right before my project. This project was a huge sports court of some sort. There were retaining walls that were being rebuilt. There was differences in materials and measurements. And a huge impervious area was allowed adjacent to wetlands, and yet you said, okay, fine. So now I feel like you guys have a job to do, and I respect that, but you seem to be applying different standards to different members of this town.
You can look at that plan if you like. It's all shown outside the 50-foot no-build zone.
Well, no, but there were, regardless of no build, they were tearing down retaining walls that were being rebuilt. They were making impervious areas that adjacent to wetlands, and all of this was okay with you guys.
That project was pre-existing.
that project didn't require a waiver.
When it came to-
Without going too far afield.
When it came to the retaining walls,
Let Al speak, and then I'll ask you again.
Without going too far afield and without making this our entire night, the project that you're making reference to was apples and oranges compared to yours. And
well,
it didn't,
no,
and it didn't
I'm not
require.
talking about, obviously.
so-
But what I'm talking about is your discretion about allowing them to rebuild a retaining wall. It's on video.
Was outside of the 50. Yours,
Right, but...
yours is not.
But in
Yours is
terms
not.
of allowing your discretion...
It's approvable if it's outside the 50. It didn't require a waiver. The plan that you've had in front of us until tonight showed your project in the no-build zone. It's a kind of a miracle that tonight your project is outside of the no-build zone. So either your engineer...
No. The landing is cantilevered, okay? I gave very specific instructions, took great care to have this re-engineered so that it complied to what you were asking me for.
Okay, so it's your position tonight, if I'm understanding, that you no longer require a waiver because your work is outside of the 50. Is that, do I have the correct impression?
Yes.
Okay, so, Jennifer, do we have any reason to doubt the plan in front of us that is stamped? Because if we do,
I'm not an engineer, but all I see is a 50-foot no-build zone and structure on the inside of it. So to me, that's,
well, the plan I'm looking at on the screen shows 50 feet, 1 inch, nothing inside of it. So
then
what do we have? If there's a dispute.
I'm not an engineer.
Because the bylaw is very simple. The bylaw gives us a way out. If there's a dispute, it goes out to third-party review, third-party peer review at the expense of the applicant. We're not going to sit here and bang the table over these two plans. That's not going to happen. This is going to be, if this is a battle of experts, then we get a third-party peer registered professional land surveyor or a registered professional engineer to review the plan and determine where the truth lies. And then
can require that.
And then we go from there. We're not
Okay.
going to determine the validity of the plan
I'm not
here at
even
this
going to
table.
begin to argue engineering, so.
So, if
Not my science.
if there's, the applicant is clearly stated that the plan in front of us is the correct plan, and it shows the subject is outside of the 50. That's what I'm seeing. So if there's a question on the validity of the plan, it doesn't go one step further. It goes out to review at his expense, period.
Okay, well, you can vote that.
expense is.
The expense of getting a third...
We can get three
A
with three quotes.
third-party engineer. We're not going to, we have one engineer on the board, and he's not going to review your plan. So it has to be an independent, third-party peer review. If it were a question of wetland, you'd be hiring a wetland scientist, but in this case, it's a question of distance. So it's got to have to be either an RPE or an RPLS. The expense is yours, because you're just, there's clearly, we have two different plans. And we're not gonna argue into the wee hours of the morning over the validity of your plan. If you're presenting and uttering that plan as true, we accept your utterance, but now we have to validate it.
All right.
That's the bylaw.
Okay. In the event that there's a variance in their measurements,
Then you're given an opportunity to resubmit your plan. There has to be an agreement between the experts of what the correct distance is, where the flags are located, the distance to the structure, and then when there's agreement between the experts, that's the plan that comes in front of us, and that's what we then go with. All we asked you to do, and I know I'm repeating myself, all we asked you to do was just make the project comply, because it was the opinion of the commission at the time that you have a viable and feasible alternative. You don't have to have your structure in the 50. In the no-build. There are alternatives available to you so that you can comply with the no-build. So since we determined that you have alternatives, we then are of the opinion that you're not entitled to a waiver because you have alternatives. Alternatives equals no waiver. So now your plan is different. The distance on this plan is different than the distance on the previous plan. So now that's a real problem. That tells us there's something wrong somewhere. Somebody made a mistake somewhere. So that mistake has to be checked.
okay.
Because the plans are everything. We work,
Right.
we live and die by
I
them.
understand.
Okay.
I just want to cite.
So kind of the choice is yours, again. We want to help you, and we want to try to save you some
I
money.
don't think you do.
Well, you're certainly entitled to your opinion, and I'm sorry you feel that way, but we're trying to give you the easy way out. Just make it comply.
I thought I did.
Well,
Yeah, if I may say something.
Sure.
The modified plan that you gave us, you took the jacuzzi out of the 50-foot, moved it to another location.
Everything you wanted done
Okay,
was done.
that deck, but you still have part of the steps coming down from your existing deck. It comes down to, you shortened them up somewhat, but it comes down to a landing area. It's part of those steps leading down from the deck to the landing area shown on this plan is within the 50-foot no-build zone.
So can you...
So it would still
can you-
require an alternatives analysis.
Can you Can you show me within the town bylaws where it states that the no-build zone is measured horizontally.
That's not even a question we're going to discuss. We're not even going to discuss. That's an engineering question. If you're questioning the engineering, I'm going to go back to what I just said. Then it goes out to third-party review to determine point A to point B. If you want to make that argument, you can. You have that right. But you're making it on your dime.
All right. So am I to understand then that if this is a matter of inches, that this board...
Looks like it's a matter of feet.
No,
It looks like it's a matter of feet.
It's not a matter of inches, because even the 50-foot, 50.1 feet that he's measured along the ground still leaves the landing
In the stairs.
within the 50-foot no-build zone. You got steps going from the existing deck down to the...
cantilevered. It's not touching the ground.
But you have another set of stairs that come off the landing.
And I think it's showing the footage.
Yes, there's a set of stairs that come off on the...
That's it. And they're in the 50.
No, they're not.
They appear to be, from where we
No, the landing, they touch the ground in the no-build.
Right where it
I
says,
mean, outside the no-build.
right where it says proposed stairs, there's
an arrow.
there's the 50-foot no-build line, run right through those
Going right
stairs.
through it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it's going right through it. I'm looking at the line
Either
also.
prove the 50-foot line that's shown on the plan is incorrect.
You want a pen, you want a laser pointer, Lou?
There's two, it's
This
measured...
right here is a 50-foot no-build. Your stairs are clearly in it.
The stairs are coming off a cantilevered landing. They do not touch the ground there.
How can
But
how can the stairs not touch the ground?
They do eventually outside of the no-build.
I mean, what,
Okay, so let me ask you the question. Is this the plan you want to submit, and do you want us to consider and vote on this plan?
I thought this was what you
If
wanted.
this is the plan you want, we will gladly, at your request, close the meeting and issue a decision within 21 days, if that's what you want.
We have to vote on the waiver request, but, well, it kind of puts us in a catch-22, because how do we vote on a waiver request that he's not saying he doesn't need anymore when,
He's saying he doesn't need a waiver.
Well, then I guess,
So I heard him say on the record he doesn't need a waiver. Either you need a waiver or you don't. If he doesn't need a waiver, there's nothing to vote on.
Well, then we can't vote anyways, because there's a dispute in the plans. How can you vote for a non-waiver or a waiver if the plan isn't right?
Well, he's saying this plan's right.
well, the correct measurement is horizontal measurement, that's gonna be
I was,
less than 50.
Do we as a commission
Less than
have enough information in front of us to vote on this project, yes or no?
I would say no.
You would say no. So what do we need? What more do we need?
Well, I think if he wants to move, to me, I can't justify the tape measure. We gotta go by the other, so if he's saying the 50-foot no build isn't right, is the 25 right? Is the 100 right?
well, that's why I'm referring to the town bylaws as how you define the measurement.
So
Because it was that close.
this is what I'm saying. The requirements on the bylaw say that you need to submit to us a plan that is prepared and stamped by either an RPLS or an RPE.
I did.
We don't care how that engineer...
You're the people who are disputing the plan.
No, we're not. I'm ready to close an issue in 21 days. I'm ready to close this right now. You're all set. You're telling me that's your plan? That's your plan. We're going to go with that. We'll vote on that. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm not an engineer. I have information that's conflicting. You're insisting that your information's correct, and you're beating us over the head with the bylaw. I'm ready to close an issue. I'm not going to argue another word with you.
I'm fine with that.
So you're not interested in a third-party review to clean it up?
You got to speak my language. I don't understand.
The third-party review will substantiate.
This is a third party hired by the,
No, by you.
okay.
But they're the buffer between the two of us, because there's clearly a disagreement here.
No, I'm paying them. You're selecting them?
It's your
No,
project.
there's a list that you can select from.
we would get 3 quotes, and he would have...
We're just talking
he would
about,
take the-
so I know what I'm getting into here financially. We're talking about verifying that measurement, one measurement.
Yeah, that's what...
Not a whole plan.
No, it's just
Yeah, he's right, it's that measurement. That's the measurement that appears to be in conflict.
Well,
It's all gonna boil down. Since the measurements are low, it's all gonna end up boiling down over your attorney's argument that, well, where does it say it's a horizontal measurement, not a,
But that's
any
the
other
reason,
ones?
that's the reason.
Which you're gonna
You know,
lose,
you-
because that's an argument you
I'm
lose.
a layperson here. I listen to engineers, attorneys, I listen to you
You
people.
don't have your engineer here, do you?
But,
I
see,
didn't think he had to be.
this
I
is,
think he'd tell you that the measurements are horizontal. It's going to be-
but see, this is,
No, I asked him how the measurement should be interpreted, and he said, you're gonna have to ask an attorney, which I did.
but this is the reason why our application checklist requires either an RPE or an RPLS. We don't make that determination here. We receive the plan stamped, and it's either correct or it isn't. And if it's signed by a PE, and we think it's incorrect, then it's got to go out to review. I'm saying that's not anything that's way over my head. Whether it's how it's measured is irrelevant to me personally.
If it's a simple matter of hiring another engineer to verify a measurement, I'm okay with that. This is taking far longer than I ever imagined.
I agree. I wouldn't hire an engineer for anything. I'd make the thing comply over however many feet it is. You have an alternative that's been presented to you. Go with the alternative. Stop screwing around with the waiver.
I consulted two architects. I took your ideas to heart.
Yeah,
Regardless of if I use more,
composite material.
yes, that either corner of the deck is going to, unless you literally reconstruct the house and redesign the roof lines, either corner of that deck is going to be a wet, moldy, mildewy, treacherous area, okay? That's what I've been told, just as it is now.
Okay, so why don't we turn around and look at the plan, and it says decayed, converted to deck area. So you're expanding your deck over the area that you said was too wet to sustain stairs.
It's not an exit. It's not a place where somebody's going to be exiting, perhaps in a hurry.
No. So,
I mean, it's, you want me to take it out? Not build deck over that? That was just the easiest thing to do.
well,
I think the only thing we were trying to get you to do is just get your project outside of the 50. That's all we've been trying to do.
And that's what I thought we achieved.
And I think we have that one last disagreement over.
No, there's gonna be a discrepancy in that, because your measurement was along the ground, it was on a slope, which means it's gonna be a longer, the 50-foot, the horizontal equivalent of that 50-foot measurement is less than 50 feet. Because it's like a
I'm
triangle.
not an engineer.
It's like a triangle,
he is.
okay? And the thing is, your engineer could take that measurement, he could take it horizontally. And I think the engineer, you know, you're paying his salary, so he's not gonna give you the bad news, probably. The thing is,
Is that how it works?
Well, he specifically put on the plan as measured along the ground.
so he put it that way, but the measurements are done horizontally. And all measurements in the field, unless noted otherwise, that's why he noted it otherwise. He noted that it was along the ground, because he wanted us to realize, or know that it's not the horizontal measurement. Otherwise, he would say what the measurement is, and he wouldn't have to say that.
Then can I
Because
just
the
ask this?
standard practice is.
Let me ask one simple question. In the definition that the town gives in the bylaw for the 25-foot no disturbance zone, why doesn't it say, it says activity is permitted within the 25-foot, or within, no activity is permitted within the 25 feet of the edge of the wetland resource areas. It says nothing about horizontal measurement. Why?
Well, if it's not horizontal measurement, it should be longer. If you drag a tape up the slope and over to the deck, it should be longer
Well, it's
than a
easy.
horizontal
Look at this.
measurement.
Let's say, how far is my
And he
fake?
has it as being shorter, which is, I mean,
No, it's got shorter, which means the horizontal is gonna be even shorter than what he's shown.
The
Well,
reason,
then that makes the plan completely wrong, because then
this is the reason, this very discussion is the reason why it's silent on that. It's either, it's stamped by an RPLS or an RPE. They make
and
that
they have
determination.
standards.
And they have
by which
standards,
they act.
standard accepted practices. That's what we require. We don't tell them how to make the measurements. And we never have, and I don't think we should go down that slope now. We should not tell an
No pun
engineer
intended.
how to make a measurement. That's not what we're here for. We either accept the plan or we don't accept the plan. If we have reason,
If I do all this, I'm going to come back here, you're going to find something else.
Oh, no, we're not gonna find anything else. The only thing we're gonna find is the third-party review comes in and says the 50-foot no build is in the middle of those stairs, then we have a problem.
the distance, what's,
That's the thing. If he says the 50-foot is back some, then there's no, our whole thing is to get the structures out of the 50.
the confusion.
That's it, simple.
The reason the commission is confused, and I appreciate the confusion, is because the engineer called out that measurement in a very unusual way. I've never seen anybody call it out like that before. So just in that very, the way that the measurement was called out, it's unusual. It's not a practice we see here. We're not in the business of telling an engineer how to.
And I probably can explain that. My attorney told him he should specify that.
Well, I think that's just made things more confusing for
All
us
right,
here.
so you're agreeing to do a third-party review? So we can
With- yes.
continue?
Hold on, with respect to determining,
Is it possible to not do this in 2-week intervals?
no, we only meet twice a month.
Based on the plan before, from what I see, what I can gather from the plan that's stamped, provided there, that deck, the deck you're proposing, structure you're proposing is within the 50-foot no-build zone, which means you either provide the alternatives analysis that says this is the only way we can do it, folks, and I don't have another option, or you leave it up to the discretion of the commission, and the commission seems to have indicated, at least most of the people I've heard on it, have said, we're not going to allow it within there unless you provide us with an alternatives analysis that says, folks, we've got no other choice but to do this. And that you haven't done. Okay, that part you haven't done. So for you to say that this is outside,
Who
I
do
understand.
I hire to do that?
Well, I would think your engineer could clearly tell you that what you got shown on this plan is within the 50-foot edge defined on this plan. Now, if he says, I have a discrepancy with the 50-foot line, then he would question the 50-foot line that's shown on the plan.
Who does
Now,
one hire to do it?
disregarding your attorney, because all measurements are horizontal unless indicated otherwise. That's standard
He
practice.
did indicate it.
Well,
That's why he indicated it otherwise,
So,
because it's not standard practice. Otherwise, he would say the measurement was 50 feet.
If that's so critical, why isn't it stated in the bylaw about the 25-foot no disturbance
Because
zone?
it doesn't have to be said, because it's
But,
known as standard
there's
practice.
apparently, what I've been told, and you,
And put it in the terms that your attorney can say it's case law.
pardon?
Put it in the terms your attorney might understand it's case law.
Yes, he said there's plenty of case law to support this.
Oh, I think it's bullshit.
all right, so what appears needs to be happening is we need to get a consensus on that measurement. The project seems to be hanging on that measurement. Would you agree?
Sure.
Okay, so let's clarify that measurement. How about we start there? Yeah, go ahead.
There are, I looked at another engineering option which would require materials other than wood, steel,
Yeah.
to cantilever it from the edge of the existing deck.
Yep.
So is that an just if there's no footing or anything else in, will you approve that?
Oh, we're still back to the same,
well, no,
he's saying cantilever the landing off the stairs.
I don't want to pay an engineer to engineer something that you're just going to say no
If we're going
to.
to use steel, why don't we just use steel to construct the deck stairs in their current location, and then they won't rot?
But what his question is, if he cantilevers the project, and there are no footings in the ground,
But currently, the stairs
is it
coming down
permittable?
from the deck are in the 50. According to the 50-foot no-build zone line shows those stairs in the 50. They come to the ground in the 50. So
can you-
unless
can you
that's
do
going
it-
to change.
Can you do it and keep the stairs out of the 50? Can you do that?
I'm going to look at it.
If you can, if you can do that, that solves everything.
It's easy to sit here and tell me how to build my home, but you don't live there.
Well, it's not as easy as you think, but well, that's what we're asking you to do. I understand.
I've been trying to comply with everything you've asked me to do at an extreme cost.
But you haven't kept the stuff out of the 50, and you haven't given us an alternatives analysis why we should allow you to keep it in the 50. So those are the two
So
point of
if-
contentions right there. That's the only 2 point of contentions that we've had in the 2 meetings that I've been at, and we had a meeting before. We never have this problem as far as approving projects. It's just the reluctant that we always have, if there's a waiver request, there's always has to be an alternatives analysis, always. And putting structure, especially when you're putting structure in the 50. Then we have 2 50-foot no-build lines, so we have a conflicting plan. I can't vote on this plan because I don't even know where we're at. So that's why I'm suggesting get a third-party review, substantiate with a 50-foot no-builders.
I want to do both. I want to do a third-party measurement, and I want to do an alternative analysis.
Okay.
All right?
That's
All right.
fine.
So can you come back in 2 weeks with those, both?
I hope so, because
Right.
you know what? I'm subject to these people's work schedules.
Okay.
So,
All right.
So we got a motion
Can I take it that you're requesting 2 weeks to provide that information?
So we usually escrow for the alternatives analysis. I don't know what you think that will cost, but, I mean, not for the alternatives analysis, for the third-party review, in which case I would get 3 estimates and, choose from generally the most, the one who provides the best proposal, but also provides, the most reasonable price is usually the way we
it
go.
was my decision to accept.
Well,
Whichever.
we give you,
Oh, we can give you all 3, but, I mean, if the 3, we go out to request three bids from, because we have to choose from contractors or engineers who do not work in town, who don't have any affiliation to current projects. I mean, we have to kind of look at it that way.
She has a list.
So this is truly an independent
Yeah.
person.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely.
it has to be independent, yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
from those people, we tell them what we want reviewed, they submit a proposal, and then from the 3 proposals, I usually choose that's what technically should make it independent,
What would
if
it
the
cost to
applicant
get this
chooses.
looked at? What would it cost to validate that 50-foot line? Anybody?
You guys submit that.
Validate the 50.
Yeah, if you were hired as a third party.
This is all flagged, you basically get a surveyor, if the wetland line is accurately depicted on the plan, and those wetland flags are accurate, defining the 50-foot line is just a measurement off of that line. That's how they create it.
So
The fact is that the 50.1 foot measurement that was put on here, given the grades that are shown on the plan, which I'll make the assumption are accurate, that measurement along the ground is it's a sloped line, which means the horizontal measurement from the wetland line to the same point that the 50.1 feet was measured, it's going to end up being less than 50.1 feet.
So
Okay.
we have to recommend an amount to escrow.
Which goes to this line shown on the plan being
Right.
correct.
So how much do you think it would cost to have
To
an
verify.
engineer go out there and measure that?
And just say either it's right or it's wrong. And then if it's right, you still have to get the stairs out of the no-build, or request a waiver showing you have an alternative.
It's cost you most likely probably $500, what they're gonna charge, because they're gonna take 4 hours out of their time to go review all this stuff and go out there and do it, so you're gonna pay at least that.
Okay.
Does that work?
So we need to escrow, you need to escrow $500 with the commission to get the third-party engineer to go out and validate the work. Rule it in or rule it out.
Now, are those wetland flags been surveyed?
I would go back and check, but I reviewed the wetland flags with Rochelle back weeks ago now.
So if they're accurate and they're as depicted on the plan, you know, if somebody's gonna go out and do all that work, put a survey crew out in the field, then you're talking a lot more money.
Say again?
If they gotta go out and relocate these flags again.
They were just put up.
Why would they have to be relocated?
That's
Well, he's
why
saying,
that's-
confirming that they're in the correct location. I could
Well, then you
pull,
could do that.
I would make sure they're where I last remember them, yes.
That's fine.
So we can have Jen do that.
Well, yeah, that was, in July, they were flagged by Arrow Environmental. So now the survey work was done, just,
I would like to have two options. Do that, and depending on conversation I have with an engineer, if there's an alternative that we use that horizontal measurement and that any sort of steel goes on the other side of that.
well, it's also, from my looking at the plan here, the deck, what you've got here, I can see at least a couple of alternatives to where you've got the stairs leading down from the deck. Apparently, you want the stairs there.
Well, they're already there.
No, there are stairs here on the side. From this end of the deck, you've already built them. Is that the
Right.
point? So you've already constructed them. So it seems to me that they would have to be
What
taken
we're
out.
trying to look at is using some other means such as steel to cantilever and reinforce the infrastructure to the stairway.
If you insist on keeping it where it is.
I'm not an architect, I'm just told
Yeah.
that this is the best location for the stairs, okay? I mean, so, you, again, you don't live there,
There's another way of coming off that thing and staying within the 50 and coming down diagonally off the steps.
diagonally where?
Down this way.
Except there's an access door under the porch, that's why there's steps
Are these steps
there,
up to it or down to it?
up to it.
Up to it. You'd have to design the steps so that it leaves you access to that. I mean, that's an alternative. The other alternative is to come off down here this way and then down. That's an alternative.
You still have the ability to present to us your own alternatives analysis that reflects your view and the views of your architect and builder. You have yet to do that. You've orally argued, but you have yet to submit a document to us that's an alternatives analysis that we can consider.
So is that has to come from an architect or what?
That,
It can come from you.
it can come from you and with information from your experts, but it's absolutely essential to a request for a waiver. I told you the last time we were here, no waiver gets viewed or considered without an alternatives analysis. It's ironclad.
Okay, let me do that.
I strongly recommend
my
that.
other alternatives, including a remeasurement of that line.
Okay, all right. Would you do that?
Yes.
All right.
So we need so we're gonna continue to the next meeting.
So we're
That's what
not
you wanna do.
escrowing at this point.
He's going to let
Well,
him...
can I do that if I go visit you? Do I have to, like,
No,
officially?
You do that through Donna.
Okay, but I don't have to come back here to do
No.
that? Okay,
No.
Correct. That's correct.
wonderful,
All right.
thank you.
So we
All right,
need,
so we'll see you in 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
All right.
Thank you.
It's actually, yeah, 2
Motion
weeks.
continued?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry to take so much of your time.
That's, no, thank you.
You're always welcome here, sir.
All right. Okay, general business, do we have any continuances? Yep.
Yeah,
I see one. I
107.
see.
We have one tabled, one NOI tabled, right?
Right,
I don't
Grace?
think he's coming, but, I mean, we can act on that at the end. We have,
Okay, we have 242-1620, a COC request for 179 Osgood Street.
aren't we at NACC 126, 107 Campion Road? Is the first general business item?
Okay, well, mine doesn't say continued.
That's continuing, yeah.
Okay, all right, so we'll start from the top. NACC 126, COC request, requesting continue till 9/23.
He's gonna sod it, the area outside the rain garden that's not stabilized,
Okay, so when's he going to continue till?
to 9/23.
9/23, okay.
So I understand, NACC number 126 wants to continue.
Yes.
Right.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. There is another one. PCOC request, 242-1601, request to continue to 9/23.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed, and that's unanimous.
He only gets one more continuance. We need to deal with that because it's getting too late to, next round will be an enforcement order to make sure he complies with the last enforcement order he didn't comply with.
So this is the different one, right?
This is, the COC request is there, but he doesn't change the fact that the last enforcement order was not fully complied with and it's still out there. It now affects a new house that's been constructed.
Right, so you're not doing enforcement of Seaport, you're doing it for Osgood's.
I would do it for all of them now because they're all out of compliance.
Okay, that's what we talked about today. That's fine.
Yep.
All right, and 242-1620, COC request for 179 Osgood Street, request to continue to 9/23.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Okay, so go back up top. 24257, that's an old,
What year was that?
71 Bonnie Lane,
What year was-
81.
What year was that, 81? No kidding.
So, on the plans, the house was constructed outside of the 100-foot buffer zone. It may be slightly within now, depending on how the lake is. There's an area where the wetland comes up on this lot. But that said, the house has been there forever. Heidi did a site visit, and there's no violations. The area down to the lake is well vegetated, and she recommends the PCOC.
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, and that's unanimous.
What are you
You're all
laughing
set.
about?
Thank you.
Yeah, you sat through the slugfest, we figured we'd give you,
I was getting nervous, I was gonna be next.
have no fear.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next one is 242-1566, COC request for 95 Olympia Lane.
So, this one, this is one of those, we reuse orders and something got carried over from another order that said, and you can see it in Heidi's recommendations, an as-built plan will not be required provided that all work is constructed as shown on the plan of record referenced herein. Should deviations be made, they shall be shown on the plan of record and certified by the installer. This came out of, must have been some kind of septic COC, The point is, we can't tell if there's any deviations from the plan until we get an as-built plan. So at a minimum, they need a letter from their engineer, which they didn't provide, certifying that everything was done in compliance. But we have another one where there were two from a couple years ago where somehow this condition got carried into the order of conditions. On the last one, you just decided that it says it, provided that. So I think it still leaves the opening that if you want an as-built plan, we should be getting an as-built plan.
This is for 95 Olympic?
Right, this was an addition.
Yeah, I mean, Was it an NOI?
Yes.
Yeah, then we want an as-built.
I know, but it's, you know, it's my fault. Some language from an old order of conditions, or an order of conditions where we didn't require one, got carried into this.
So the order of conditions as issued didn't require a,
It says what it says right here, an as-built plan will not be required, provided that all work is constructed as shown on the plan of record. I have no idea if all
Okay,
work is
so-
shown on the plan of record, because we don't,
So
we don't have a plan of record.
There's an option. If they want to, if they can validate the plan of record and show that the work was constructed.
well, that would be to produce an as-built that shows it complies.
But that's what I'm saying. In other words,
Right.
it doesn't say the words as-built, but it says, did it get done,
Shown on the plan of record.
shown on the plan of
Right,
record?
so
it's the
obviously,
same thing.
whatever this was probably something that was built over, let's say, an existing patio or something. I mean, it was something where we could validate by just looking at it. We can't do that in this case. It's an addition. It was, you know, there was mitigation proposed for this, all kinds of things. So the mitigation's been done.
We need one of the
We
other.
need an as-built.
We need at least a letter from the, we got the design plan.
We should have an as-built.
No, there should be a plan. There should be a plan
If
along
we
with
have the design plan and the engineer certifies that it was
Right.
done in accordance with the design plan and there are no deviations, fine.
As long as the work that was completed is shown on the record.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's it. If it does that, and if he says this, other things have been done, then we need,
It,
then you,
I don't want a letter that begs forgiveness.
No.
So an engineer needs to certify, and it needs to show either on the certified plan or on a new plan.
RPE or an RPLS, take your pick. I mean,
Okay. Well, whoever did it should, you know, if it was a PE, it should be a PE, and likewise. Okay, I will let them know. So
There's a lot going on that project.
there was enough.
Is there any chance that it would come out exactly the way it was
I
proposed?
mean, it wasn't like a,
I mean, down to the,
It's unlikely.
yeah. You don't have to look, it's just, it was a theoretical question I should have kept to myself.
All right, so we need to continue.
continue, yes.
Motion to continue?
so move.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed, and that's unanimous. Okay, now we have 242-1538, COC request for 622 Salem Street.
So this was an after-the-fact notice of intent, so we know the work was done in compliance with the plan, because the plan was basically an as-built of the work that had been done, but you required him to do some mitigation. He had dumped some soil from where he had put this addition under the deck. So he cleaned that up, planted 6 blueberry shrubs. Those have survived the amount of time they needed to survive, and recommend a full COC.
Any discussion?
No questions.
Doug? Sean?
Nope.
Motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
I,
Opposed? And that's unanimous. It's all set. Okay. So we have Half Mile Hill mowing plan, is that correct?
We have, the parties are here.
All right.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Perfect.
Steve Sidell, from White Hill, representing Crescent Farms, Michael Davidowitz. I don't know where to go. We met here last July. I have my hat in my hand, I guess. I went home and I can only do so much myself. I told Michael that we had to get a hold of Dan with USDA, and he said, okay. And I brought it up a couple times with no mention. And then this past Thursday, about noontime, Heidi called me. Say, hey, are you the contact person? We got a problem going on here. So I talked to her, and I went up to talk to Michael. And he says, I've been over there 3 times, but they're never there. He says, well, what did you do with the report I gave you? I says, what report you gave me? He said, I gave you a report. So he went through his pile of junk, if you've ever been in his office, and there in the envelope was this report from Dan from last September. And the problem that existed right now was that it needed to get taken care of, and one of the issues of the day was we had some perfect weather this past weekend to get it done. So Heidi jumped through some loops and everything and got us permission to go over there. And then we had a problem. Heidi called me and said, okay, I got it all set to go, you can go over there. We had a little bit of trouble of how we were going to enter, and I had mentioned that some of it had already been mowed previously, like a first cut had been taken off of it. And she gave me a map of what to be mowed, and Michael was on vacation, so I sent a kid over to mow it, and when I went over to look at it, somebody else had his equipment over there and was mowing it also.
He was mowing to the
left.
of the preschool, correct?
Yeah, I have a, yeah, to the left of preschool. But that was what she told us we were supposed to be moving, and looking at the whole project, which I've been over there for over 20 years mowing in the past. I've never mowed that piece. I do recall one time mowing out front, in front of the barn, but I never remember mowing that. So whoever's mowing this, the guy must need it, and he probably should stay it.
It's all weeds behind the school, right?
It's 6 months. I don't know what he's doing with it, whether he's feeding goats or actually who it is. I have no idea.
But I mean, the quality of the hay, I've been over there.
The quality of the whole place is shot now, which was our issue last year of, we would like to, if we were going to gain it, we just didn't want to work on it year for year. We'd like to put some money into it, and to put some money into it and make a long-term contract so that we would, and be renewable, so we'd get our money back out of it. The time we were over there and got in a little bit of trouble with what we fertilized it with, and then we lost it. We had fertilized it that fall, and then we lost it.
That's what we thought you would have done in the past year, but I understand it didn't get done.
That didn't get done.
So what are you proposing?
Oh, what am I proposing? Okay, well, I got back from Heidi. She said the report from the USDA looked good, and it was probably a great proposal. Well, it really isn't a proposal per se. It's a series of things, if this, if that, if that. I guess we still want to go over and do it. We're looking, and it just coincidentally, today we seeded 18 acres down at Tewksbury, and it cost us over $5,000.
I'll ask you the question, so
Yes, go
we can
ahead.
make this go fast. So you took the hay off it this past weekend?
Yes.
Okay. So now, we're not going to get into a dispute of who's mowing behind the school or whatever. If there's somebody that wants to go into that area behind the school and take those weeds, let them take it.
Okay. The issue that I had is that if, we're going to dump money into it,
Well,
do we dump it over, are we going to do the whole thing as part of it?
We'll find a way to delineate a line so that everybody knows whose hay is on what side of the line.
It's very easy.
That's something we can do in the field, and that, I agree, that's easy.
Right.
Because my understanding is that the fella that's doing the other cutting, I'm told from the staff, seems to be a likable enough guy, doesn't seem to be a problem, so.
And he's been doing it since before, when Edgewood owned the hill.
Yeah, like I said, I've never mowed that piece in all the years
Yeah.
I've been over there, and the issue is, he's beating it up, he's not putting anything into it.
Yeah, no, I get it. So we're concerned about the majority of the hill, which
Okay.
is what you're going to be doing, the work you're doing for us. So you went to see Dan Lenthal, you got kind of like a farm plan. Did they do soil analysis, and did they have any recommendations?
They did, we've got, in the report is the soil, it's Paxton Fine soil.
Yeah.
Haven't done a soil test yet, that would have to be what would have to be done next. One of the things that makes it very difficult is the slope over there. It's all, nothing under 8%, up to 25%, very dangerous, and I'm not sure, we're kicking it around, yeah, we want to do it, but really, something like that should be top-seeded, but then we get in the proper, with top-seeded, it's so old that it really needs to be turned over.
Here's the problem. That Paxton Fine sandy loam that there's indicated on this plan right here is the absolute worst possible scenario that you could have if you're going to till it and open it up.
Yeah.
That stuff is brutal. With those slopes, if the hill in an unstable condition, you'd have to be tilling across the hill horizontally.
You have to contour it.
You'd have to contour it. You'd have to have ditches and setbacks. I mean, it would be a real challenge, because if there were ever any kind of a bad storm, that stuff could potentially make it down to the lake, which is what we don't want. That would be a nightmare for all of us.
That's what we got in reading over this. We'd like to plant alfalfa and Timothy. We could top seed it. That isn't a problem. In doing that, it's a 2-year lead program even before you do it, to get the soil stabilized and fertilized to do a top seeding.
Yep.
So before we'd actually get a viable crop out of it outside of mulch hay, is at least 2 years down the road, running with that kind of a project. Like I said, it was plenty of catch-22s. This would be the ideal thing, but it isn't. And then because the soil has had nothing done to it in years, it's just so compact on top of the bad soil, as you mentioned, in itself, it might be a no-win situation.
Well, let's say you found a way to be comfortable with a no-till operation. Let's say you went no-till, which is a very conservative approach, which is what we like for this hill because we're so concerned with the lake. So if you went no-till, we'll give you the amount of years you want to get it done. A multi-year contract isn't a problem with this commission as long as you lay out a plan, show us what you want to do over those years, and then do it.
Okay, our thing, well, we're going back to USDA to come in and do the soil analysis and to come up with their plan. And when they put it in print, we would submit that back to you following their plan, because we really, because of the problems over there, we don't want to take it on our shoulders to do what we want.
Yeah. Well, that's why we sent you to see Dan Lento,
Right.
because he's pretty good with this stuff. He does a lot of farm plans, and he understands the soils better than probably anybody that in farm and in agriculture. And we know those slopes. Traditionally, the reclamation of that field has been conducted all with lime and top feeding and, aeration and everything other than tilling. Tilling should be a last resort.
Yes, right, that's what we come down to, but then that was the other problem, is it's so compact and with the soil and everything.
Yeah, I don't know.
We're not sure what we'll get out of it.
I don't know what's out there for equipment on no-till farming. I'm not as current on it as you are.
The Brilliant Cedar is usually pretty good. It drills down 3-4 inches, and that's what we need here
Yeah.
to
Do you
begin
have
with,
one?
to get that depth in it.
Do you have a Brilliant?
Yes. One of the other things is that you have to spray and kill the whole field the year before you do it.
So if you have...
You can't spray in the watershed.
Right.
So you might have to skip that step.
Yeah, we got a whole lot of catch-22s, so.
I still think you can get it done. I mean, that's a pretty good field. It's not lost yet.
Yeah.
It's, I bet you...
I think we did pretty, I don't get involved much anymore. I just drive. Today I brought the chopper home. Yesterday I went down and got fertilizer, but I was over there following it, and they had such good weather, they knocked everything down last weekend.
Yeah, what'd they
And
get?
all of a sudden, on Monday afternoon, about 3 o'clock, I get a call, can you find me some baling twine? So I found it in Derry, and I ended up going over there because that's where they were when they were running out. And
Yeah.
they took, I would say, I don't think they got 1,000 out of it, but probably 900-something bales they took off
Do
of
they
it.
make squares or rounds?
Square.
Squares,
Yeah, in the spring, if we had a regular product in there, we'd go in and make the round and wrap them, so it'd come out a different product.
A few years back, without belaboring this, they were getting close to 100 bales to the acre up there when it was really cranking.
Well, I figured that's about 18 acres, and with that other piece, it was 22 acres, but then the way she had drawn a line, there was a diagonal down the front corner from where the tree is out to the right of the daycare, almost came back to about 40 feet from the gate going in, that belonged to someone else that we wouldn't do. So there's like 17 and a half acres on that hill. I don't, Heidi said something, that belonged to the school, and the other person mowing thought that the other went to the school, and
To the right,
so
the
we're-
school does own a triangle piece next to
Down
it
the-
to the right,
yeah.
yes.
So
would that be out or would that be in? I mean,
That would be out, that's theirs.
that's theirs.
And I think the other guy mows that for them, and then he mows up the left-hand side.
All right.
So that, you'd have
We don't
basically
know
the
how long
big
this other
hill.
guy's going to keep working either, I mean...
Right, well, it was just the issue, like you said, the other
Bale and
side
hay
is
people-
junk, and there's nothing in there to,
I was just going to
if
say...
you're gonna make something whole and make it good, and you got the equipment there,
Yeah.
now's the time to do it.
So, all right, so let me just give you a suggestion, and
Go
then, of
ahead.
course, but I would suggest that you go forward with a no-till plan and see what you can come forward with on how you want to do it. No-till plan, also no spraying because of the drinking water. So with those kind of constraints, see what you can come up with. Talk to Dan, tell Dan those are the kind of things we can't do, and I'm sure he already knows that. And then see if you can come forward you know, before next season with what your plan's going to be, when you want to start. Again, I'm assuming you want to start in either late March, early April. And, you know,
Well, basically, the seating plans and everything would be a fall,
well,
would be a fall issue, but
okay, so,
one of the, and then you have the birding problem over there, where
well,
we take the first crop before June and then come
You
in
can-
after in August.
you can go in and chop the first crop, right?
Yes, that's what we
You
do.
can go chop and make-
Either round bale or to chop it.
Or make haylage, get in there early and make haylage, and then come back and bale the last. It'll be,
Yeah.
you'll get a better second crop if you chop the first, I think.
That look like the lease area to you?
Does that look like the?
How far over? Because I thought he said he was doing up to the tree line.
He was.
Does do-
He did from the tree line back.
To the
over
wetland.
here.
Here's the wetland.
Yeah,
And then
right.
he does this little piece right here.
Yeah,
Yeah, right.
yeah, right in.
So
Right in
it
here.
wouldn't include this. You're saying this is what he was doing?
This, yeah, he did.
Right.
Where, this is a big slope here, who did what in there? I think
Right,
we actually
so-
picked the hay up there because our equipment was here, and with the baler, he just picked it up going up the
Okay,
hill.
So how
So-
soon do you want to start your first activity up there? I'm assuming your first activity, now that you've baled it and cleared it, I'm assuming your first activity would want to be to aerate and
Soil
see.
analysis,
You want to do, so you can do that right away.
right.
So get up in August some soils and get them over to Dan. He'll tell you what you need for lime, what you need for fertilizer. I mean, I'd get right on it. And,
I thought we were getting on it last year.
yep, so that's okay, so you're here.
Well, now we'll
Hey,
we'll
look,
keep
the way
on
I look
you
at
and
it is
we'll
you're
get it
here,
done.
so that's,
And as soon as you get us your plan, then we'll get them to sign it and get that
yeah,
all
just
done.
get going on it.
You know, I have no idea what I did before I retired, but I have no extra time.
Yeah, I hear you, I know. Well, we're happy to have you up there if you want to get it done. We'll work with you.
Okay. Yeah, I know in the past, I know you had problems with him, but he's got quite an operation going now. We got over close to 800 acres we're doing now.
Yeah, well, that's good. That sounds good. I mean, I don't know if any of the other commissioners have questions they want to ask you before you go. Does anybody have questions of Mr. Sardella?
No, I have no.
Any concerns or anything, any guidance we want to give him, other than the guidance he's been given?
I think he's got it all at this point.
All right, that's,
I think the main thing is you're happy we're working with Dan. We're happy because we don't want to do anything without him because we don't want to be out on the limb.
well, he's good. He's a good resource, and not going to cost you anything, so you're already paying him.
Past my bedtime.
All right, thank you, sir.
right,
So,
thank you.
Good evening now.
Mr. Chairman. Good. Except for a decision. No, we have an EO, I'm sorry.
We have an EO.
Oh, all right, I'm sorry.
1635 Osgood Street.
Oh, no kidding.
So, we're inspecting, there's a septic project going on next door. When we noticed that there was some fill being placed in a part of a stormwater management structure, we came up to talk to the, do you own the property or at least? Yep, the owner, Mr. Miskis. Am I saying that right? Miskis. And he gladly worked with us, took us around, showed us what he had done. He had expanded a mulch storage area that, we issued this project to COC back in 2012, at which time there was a much smaller mulch storage area in this location. So when the mulch storage area was expanded, there was some fill placed in the detention area, and there was a swale that ran behind. Actually, I've sketched it onto the plan that's in front of you right here. You can see my pencil marks, how the swale ran. That's the as-built swale. So I superimposed this plan over the old plan. So that is where the swale that led down to the detention basin, the sediment trap area was. So currently, the block walls are within the stormwater management system. So this is an as-built plan of what he did. That was what the EO required for him to get a plan that showed us what happened. He did it very quickly. We gave him longer, but he would really like to get it resolved. So at this point, it's clear you see the lower, it says area of fill, and it has the spot grades. It should be at 104, 106. It's at about 112. So obviously that material needs to come out. That needs to be restored. You know, I don't think the concrete block mulch storage area is an issue, but it obviously needs to be moved out of where the swale belongs and the swale restored this point, that would be my recommendation. I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, I'll do whatever you guys ask me to do, you know, we had to fix it, you know, so.
And the mulch storage area was something that was never delineated on the prior plans. It was just listed as mulch storage area. But, you know, you can clearly see in all the area, this is the new, what's out there. But previously,
Yeah.
there's always been, this was the smaller. Oh, mulch storage area. And this is the swale. This was the as-built. These were the photos from when the COC was done, so that's the swale as it was constructed.
Well, he could turn the blocks along the 50 and still have access to turn and dump and fill in it.
The mulch storage area was in the 50 before. It was never clearly out of the 50. It's just, it's big cinder blocks. He's put a tarp, you know, the big round, I don't know what you call them. Yeah, the metal roof.
Well, I'm just looking at it as far as where the swale is. If you start turning it from the bottom side,
Kind of angle it, you mean?
yeah, and angle it along the 50, and that still gives him plenty of turning radius and to get into there. I mean, he'll lose his pavement area as far as,
It's not all pavement, edge of pavement's shown there.
that's what I'm saying, with the edge of pavement.
Moving
Just-
toward the edge of pavement
In
with
other
the
words,
block wall.
just turning it, to the, you know, so it runs parallel to the 40, the 50. I'm not saying it has to be completely out of the 50, but he's gonna need room at the swale at the bottom side where the detention area is. Yeah, turn it toward the garage. So it's right at, say,
Well,
it's,
what I'm thinking about doing, if I gotta get out of the 50, is I can take the back blocks, they're 6 feet long each, you know? So if I take 2 blocks and then the back wall, because they're 6 by 2, so that right there is gonna be 14 feet, and I'll move those to the front. The 2 blocks that are in the back, I'm talking about the big bin right now. So if I move the 2 from the back to the front and just get everything out of the back, you get what I'm saying? See the biggest bin all the way, I don't
One
know
on the
what your
bottom.
screen looks like. Yeah, at the bottom, yeah. So if I take the back blocks, move them to the front, I mean, it's a lot of work, but it is what it is, you know? And then that way I'm completely out of the 50, and I'll move the other bins, I'll move them completely out of there. I don't, whatever you guys.
well, like I said, I mean, if I just turn them and run them along the 50 or just beyond it, you know.
The one in the bigger bin, I mean, that thing was expensive to build, you know what I mean? There's a lot to it, so to take the whole thing apart and turn it, it's a lot bigger project than to just take the back and move it to the front.
No, if you're saying taking 2 blocks out of the bottom, the big bin,
Yep, all the way in the back towards.
okay,
the
you take 2 out and then start the wall that way. Because you gotta be on the other side of the swale. That line that, can you see that line that Jen's through? In other words,
See the pencil lines that are,
in other words, taking these 2 here, you say taking 2
Yeah,
here,
taking those 2, yeah.
and then run it parallel this way.
Oh, yeah, that's exactly what I mean, yeah, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. And then those 2 blocks are gonna go to the front of the bin, so I keep my
Over
bin
there.
the same size instead
Right.
of going to my parking lot,
Right.
yeah.
And that pulls everything out of the 50
Exactly, yeah.
and gives you room to run your swell.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
sort
thinking.
of, on one of your plans, sketch out where you're going to relocate it to, so
Yeah.
when I write, what I'll do is write a new enforcement order allowing you to do the work,
Yeah.
Huh?
and then we'll have a plan.
All the way up. Yeah,
Now, what about the
when I
other-
said turn, that's what I meant, just take this and then just go this way. It still has plenty of room.
Now, the other bin in the container and stuff, the other bins in the container, does that all have to come complete?
Forward.
Yeah, just, yeah.
That's what Lou, see the dotted line, Lou's saying move it, basically turn the whole structure so it kind of follows that line
Oh,
now.
you're saying the whole entire thing, all right, yeah. All right.
Yeah, because like I said, your back wall is completely on the other wrong side of the swale.
Yeah.
That swale has to be redone, because that affects the whole stormwater management to the detention pond.
I was shocked myself, where that line was, but. because a lot of that stuff was already there, you know what I mean? When I bought the place, a lot of the,
I know, unfortunately, that's what happens.
yeah.
Well, in 2012, the swale was there, because we took
Oh,
pictures.
the swale was there, yeah, that got completely overgrown, and things got pushed over the bin before I closed them up with the roof and all that stuff, so it was like a little of both, but,
So we need you to ratify the previous enforcement order and then require him to provide a plan, and we'll issue a new enforcement order for him to do the work. Does that make sense?
Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
And then issue a new enforcement order to allow the restoration work to occur as described, with a plan to be provided.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. What, as far as the time element,
Get it done in a month. We'll give you a month to do the work. 2 months? We can give,
If you need more time.
2 months, okay, 2 months, I mean, I think I'll get it done in 2 weeks, but I just don't wanna, you know.
yeah, well, so we'll give him 60 days to do the work.
okay.
Is that okay?
That works, yeah, perfect.
Very good.
Okay, so Sean, Al, and unanimous. Okay,
We good?
good.
And now I
Yep.
just bring the plans to you?
Bring the plans to Heidi and I, yep.
Okay.
We'll
And I'll
just
come
look
back
them
in, I
up.
can just, after she approves it.
After we approve them, we'll write up something and you'll be good to go.
All right.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Okay, decision.
77 Bear Hill.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We still have an item that was tabled.
Oh, right, do we want to,
We still have
Vote to-
2421657.
We
So-
got rattled there for,
so motion to continue 777 Great Pond Road
So
for 2
moved.
weeks.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous.
Okay, now we'll clean. Someone had to clean the table.
Okay, so.
So there are no waivers on this?
There is a waiver. The existing patio and the existing retaining wall are being taken out and replaced. They've rotted, they're broken,
But is it the replacement in kind?
replacement in kind.
That's really not a waiver.
Yeah, we had that discussion already.
Oh,
If it's
did we
in
not-
kind-
did we not vote a
If it's
waiver?
in kind, it's not a waiver.
Okay.
It's absolutely not a waiver, and it should be clear that there's no waivers in
Okay,
this project.
I didn't have written in here that we granted,
I would appreciate very much if somewhere in your narrative you make that clear. Because this was referenced tonight.
Yeah, because we had that discussion with the...
We absolutely had that discussion, and
We had
the
an
replacement's in kind.
Yeah, because we had an applicant rebuild a wall. It was approved a couple
And during the
days
discussion,
before.
I recall, the request was made to approve the waiver, and the discussion was, there's nothing to approve, it's an
we did,
in-kind replacement.
we did require him to remove a shed out of the no disturb zone, or no build zone.
That's correct.
And granted, too, this project is so old, the wetland out there is not a natural wetland, it's a detention basin constructed partially within a wetland. So, again, it's a very different proposal, which was very lost on
I recall
those
the
making
shed,
comparisons.
but I definitely recall that the lack of a waiver, no waiver was needed.
Okay,
So we should make that clear,
yep.
somewhere. That's all I have to say about that.
So I have 2,000 as the bond. Wetland resource area markers, there is one area where they could, we don't want them to mark the detention pond, though. We want them to.
What are we calling the detention pond? For
We're
the record, on the
considering,
record
it's
drawing.
considered resource area, but, I mean, they mow right up to the edge of it, and it needs to be actually maintained, to actually maintain it, you would mow it annually, because it's not supposed to
Which
have
is what we
trees
would
and-
want. We want it maintained We
Right.
want it mowed.
So I don't think the no disturb markers belong there. There is a berm and a wetland, a detention pond to the other side where they could mark.
Okay.
So I would recommend the markers there, but not
Okay.
on all resource areas.
No, and in fact, we should point out that we want them to maintain that detention area.
That's a much bigger issue on Bear Hill, but,
I got it, but you got to start somewhere.
well, it does say in here, the stormwater management conditions, the applicant's owners and their successors and assignees shall maintain in
Okay,
perpetuity.
beautiful, beautiful. Say no more.
Okay. I think that's it on special conditions.
Any question?
Move that we adopt 2421658 as amended.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's unanimous. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.